geography right in front of you. Now, this is the most populous black nation, and we are moving forward. For those that like it, and for those that don't like it, we will definitely move forward. Away from every single thing that spells negativity. It's Friday, and we will hold our grooves and be happy, irrespective of what we see around us, what's happening around us. It is SOUQ Pulse where we talk and we tell you the same thing. Don't keep quiet. Today, we will talk about something that has been in the making for a period, something the government is running around and having meetings, consultations. Some we'll get to explain when we start the topic. And on some other part, some agencies are also pulling out some media outreach and trying to educate, talk, or say some other things. We'll talk about it when we open up the topic and get to bring in our guests and talk about this. It's an issue we can't shy away from. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are. It's a Nigerian issue, and we will definitely talk about it. Remember, this is SOUQ Pulse, where we tell you do not be quiet. My name is SOUQ, John Rogers SOUQ, and I have the privilege of telling you that every single person that has worked on this program, from those in the MCR controlling what you get to see on the screen, Patrick and Gladys, want to say thank you. It's been a good, beautiful week. And for those behind the cameras, from Austin to Black to Chike, those in the sound, I want to say thank you very, very much, guys. It's been the crew you don't get to see, but hey, on behalf of we and you, want to say thank you guys very much. So now, for those wondering why am I bringing all this crew, these are all young people, actively engaged, working, and they deserve the accolades. So for today, we are looking at the 1st of August 2024 hardship protest. I guess you never knew we were going there. That's what we want to talk about today. And we're asking ourselves directly, what exactly is the story? There is a protest that is being planned in Nigeria. For those that are not aware and you're watching us from a different continent or a different country. The protest is being planned from the 1st to the 10th. There are other communications to the 15th. Now, who are those planning the protest? Maybe with time we will get to really know exactly. Some other quarters are also taking it as a different kind of protest. But now we want to talk about the protest itself and ask ourselves directly, what exactly is the story behind this? What story is coming from both sides? What actions have been taken on both sides, from government and from the people, from the citizens? Who has the right to protest? You can answer that, it's in the Constitution. Who has the right not to protest? I don't think we can say that in the Constitution. But now, to do justice to this, to talk about this, is a very young person, because for those that have been very observant for a while across Africa and the globe, a lot of the protest has been done, pushed, and actively involved the younger people. It doesn't matter the generation you call them, but the younger people. And that is going to be where our guest is going to come from that age gap, with loads of experience to mind you. I'm talking of no other but a journalist. His name is Ayoola Babalola. Ayo, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. How are you doing, Ayo?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me, SOUQ.
Thank you very much. I like your cap turned to your right and to my left on this side. And I like your
Thank you.
chubby chips. Thank you very much. Your cheeks are looking nice. That means you are well fed. So now, before we get down to this particular story, people have raised the issues of hunger. Now, when I say hunger, let's bring it down to indices, because here we talk production mainly. Food inflation. And the protest has been tagged hardship protest. So now let's start rolling this out one by one. If food was there and there was no food inflation, will we still have the protest, Ayo?
Actually, that's difficult to answer. Protest is a political statement, right, by a group of people, by citizens, actually. So there's a whole lot of political issues that have been put together to result into the series of protests that are being planned. At some quarters, you will see end bad governance. In some other quarters, you would see end insecurity, like the Northern Group that have now mobilized about 12 northern states to join the protest. They are hammering on the insecurity that has beset their region for decades now. So what we are looking at is people coming together to discuss many issues and to call the attention of the government to address all of these issues. So it's very much likely that even if we had food inflation at some sort of lower figures, we would still have had this protest because, of course, the several other issues, the insecurity, the economic hardship, the political choices that this president has made since he has assumed office are all part of the factors that are influencing the protest.
For Nigeria is a very big nation. For those that are not aware, landmass, we are big. And there are 6 geopolitical zones. Now, within these geopolitical zones, there are 3 regions: north, west, east. North, south, east. Now, the west and south all get together. Now, for each of these regions, they have their peculiar issues. Like you've rightly said, north, insecurity. Insecurity, same thing affects farming, which now gets to the food. Now, if you get to the west, they will also say, well, the insecurity is not that bad in the west, but food inflation, bad business. Then if you get to the east, that's also something, a different kettle of fish. Now, do you think these different zones or whoever is organizing from these different zones are looking at it as it affects them, or is it collective?
Again, it's a collective, but the fact that it's a collective does not mean that there won't be specific issues, right, that people are going to raise. We have what is important, most important to each region. People are calling for the demilitarization of the Southeast and the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu, political settlements in that issue that has rocked the country for years now. But all of these issues, as it were, peculiar to each regions or each zones of the country, is not to shy away from the fundamental issue that we all agree on, that, look, whether it's economic hardship or insecurity or food inflation, the underlying factor is whether we have a sensitive government, a listening government, right? Is whether we have a government that actually knows what they are doing, not what we've been seeing since the government came into office, clamors for patience and patience, while things continue to worsen for the common people of the country. So I very much agree with you. There are issues that are peculiar to particular regions of the country, even particular groups. There are people who are joining this protest because of the alarming level of women oppression that has been normalized in our society, gender-based violence and all. But, you know, there's the collective angle to it, in the sense that everybody is coming together to argue for their personal issues, but also for the collective issue.
Everybody is coming together to argue for personal issues or regional issues, but also as a collective issue. Now, let's talk about something that affects everyone across the regions. First, it was the subsidy removal, fuel subsidy removal. Then second, it was the power tariff. The subsidy on power was also removed. Then tariff went high. Then businesses had to take the brunt. Now, do you think if both actions were not taken, we're just asking ourselves just some questions. Do you think if both actions were not taken, or if one was taken and we had a lot of measures to cushion the effect, we'll be where we are today, business-wise, agric-wise, and money in the pocket?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand the question.
If we still had the fuel subsidy going and fuel pump price was less than 300, 160, 180, If we still had the power tariff going, the subsidy, and we were not paying as much as we're paying right now for different kind of bands, and let's say companies have not left and the hardship is not there that much, do you think this particular issue and talking about this protest, do you think it will still be on by now?
Again, yes, the economic dimension to this protest is very, very evident. Talking about the removal of subsidy, the increase in electricity tariff and other economic shock absorbers that have been, removed unthoughtfully. But there is also the issues that are peculiar to persons, groups, and regions that have lingered for a while. While I agree with you that the mass base that the protest is gathering at the moment, we might have had a different situation. We might be having a different situation if these subsidies were not removed. Because what we are experiencing is that the business community, who are often laid back when it comes to political demonstrations, are also coming out because the business environment is less profitable for them. The running cost, overhead cost of their organizations have skyrocketed in unbearable percentages. So even the business community can no longer give the excuse of, oh, if you protest, you are going to be shutting down economic activities, because the economic activities is ordinarily getting increasingly hard for them to run. So what we are looking at is everybody coming out, to clamor together for a better country at this time.
Everyone coming out and clamoring for a better country at this time. I like that particular last few words you use. Now, why you're looking at everybody coming out and clamoring for a better country, which involves everybody, both those in government and us, we all want a better country. Now, let's look at what government has been doing. In the last few days, the president and presidency has met with governors, has met with ministers, have met with traditional rulers, have met with the security chiefs. Now, let's turn it the other way. Do you think the president should be having dialogue with the citizens directly, or having dialogue with this set of people in office or high network individuals?
As a matter of fact, I think even though the president may not have done the direct interaction with Nigerians, some of members of his cabinet yesterday or 2 days ago, they hosted a ministerial interaction on economic issues on a Twitter space. But I agree with you that yes, if President Tinubu has anything to tell Nigerians, he should address them. What the government is currently trying to do is to buy out the protest with their engagement with religious leaders, cultural, traditional rulers, and other bodies that they have been meeting with in the past days. So the alternative to this is for the president to come out and address the country. And I don't see that happening until the protest hits the streets. But again, what is the value of the conversation? What does the president have to tell common Nigerians? What we are experiencing is beyond what assurance. The president has been giving assurances for months, for over a year now, that things are going to get better. But what we have seen is that household items are no longer affordable for working Nigerians. People cannot pay school fees that are increasingly, being increased almost every now and then. So I guess there is little that the president can tell Nigerians now, except if we are looking at very, very radical action, that will at least could be used as a pretext to ask people to go back into their houses. Some quarters have said that if President Tinubu wants to avoid this protest, perhaps petrol should go back to a maximum of below 200 naira. I think that that kind of radical action could give the president a pretext to say he's listening, or at least to persuade the protesters. I don't think that these meetings with student union leaders, with religious leaders and traditional rulers, these primitive persuasions that they are dishing out for parents to advise their children against protest, or that people and institutions should discourage citizens from coming out. I don't think that's the way to go. And apart from whether it is the way to go or not, I don't think it's going to work.
Okay. Now you made a suggestion of bringing back subsidy. In quote, for me and you, as we speak, we don't have the full details of whether there is a subsidy or there is no a subsidy. We've heard that particular line being told for almost 3 different regimes. Now, if
Actually,
that
there
is
is
possible,
subsidy. The
I will be
presidency
happy
itself
to.
has confirmed that they have resumed payment of subsidy. But go ahead.
Now, let's look at this from this other side. Now, if there happens to be a protest, which from the information out there, it's looking like it's going to be more than 2-3 days, what precautions should Nigerians start taking?
Well, to be very honest, Nigerians have always been very cautious with public demonstrations. We were a part of the NSAS protest, and we saw how we were organized, how we organized ourselves. Of course, protesters have to stay together. Don't let's have a group of protesters here, and then we see people wandering in twos and in threes away from where the majority of the people are. We've seen those guidelines shared on social media. People have also said that protest grounds are drug-free zones. That is, there should be no substance of any kind, no smoking, and in some very, very stringent cases, in fact, no alcohol, so that everybody is with their best minds and on their best behaviors for the demonstrations. Also, no violent engagement of anybody, whether they are thugs or trans or even law enforcement officers. So these are measures that are being put together as we have always done, right? Nigerian youths have always protested, even when the protest movement itself does not have an organization. But on ground, when you get there, you will see that these people are well coordinated. If you look at the NSAS protest, we had people taking out trash, we had people coordinating food and water delivery, we had people coordinating traffic and vehicle movement. So these are measures that have also been brought into planning for the days of rage protest that are coming on between August 1 and 10.
Now, okay, thank you very much. Let's now look beyond the protest and now look at some in question ulterior motive. Is it possible, is it remotely possible that some people can hijack this particular process for their personal gains?
Again, everybody is coming out to protest to fight for their personal gains. It just depends on what our personal gains are, right? With peculiar issues that are, peculiar to each individuals, right? But as to whether there could be an infiltration of the demonstration, right, to cause mayhem and violence, again, we are going to have to look at what we have in history. And we have seen that every time, at least almost every time, there is an infiltration of protest, and then there are people who come to provoke violence. This is usually sponsored by the states or politicians, actually. So I don't think that we have some quarters, or as you may like to put it, maybe some interest, who are looking to see whether they can use this protest or not to achieve some sinister aims. To even assume that will be to make little of the issues that people are coming out to protest. Some of us don't know how bad it is. Families are feeding on grass in the north, and they are uploading these things on social media every now and then. People are having children in hospitals that they cannot take care of. They cannot pay hospital bills. They cannot afford medicine. People cannot afford to eat. People go to work every day, and their salaries cannot even cover the transportation cost. the middle class, that is the backbone of any economy, has been collapsed by the policies of subsidy removal and the advice of the International Monetary Fund that the president has been taking. So something needs to be done actually, and this is a very serious situation. And I think it is citizen-based and not maybe funded or planned by any sinister groups.
Now, Ayo, let's get to security. What should we expect the police to do as it concerns those either protesting or not protesting? Everyone has a right to protest, or you also have a right to counter-protest. So let's put that out there. So for those that are saying no to protest, if you want to come out and say that, no problem. For those that are going to protest, no problem, as long as we don't have issues. So what should the police be playing right now?
I think the police is doing what it should do. It has, over the past few days, assured Nigerians that the right to peaceful protest is sacrosanct, and that its formations across the country will offer protection to protesters across the country. So I think that settles the security aspect. But further than that, what the police should do is to identify, because many people are saying that the protests are a threat to the country's economic stability, but that is not the case. What might actually be the threat are citizens that are gathering, or under political ages and other sinister ages that are saying, look, there is no room for protest. These are non-state actors who are telling their fellow citizens whether or not they will be able to exercise their right. This is not even the police. These are groups that are being motivated, some by partisan politics, some by sheer ignorance. So I think the police, having assured Nigerians that they will protect people who will be protesting, they should go a step further and clearly mark out the faces of those who might want to attack protesters, who have said dangerous things on social media, right, against people who will be protesting. So I think the police have a duty to still go further than the assurances that they have given, to look at people who have threatened protesters, people who have threatened the demonstration itself, right, and look at them and bring them to book, or at least ensure that they are not able to disrupt the demonstrations when they begin, or provoke the demonstrations to violence. But as regards security, the Nigerian police has said that it's going to provide security for people who are protesting. And I think that's commendable.
While you commend the police and said they should go ahead and fish out whoever wants to attack those that are protesting, what about those that want to protest and have gone ahead to speak up or post some violent posts on social media of what they are likely going to do? Should they be stopped? Don't you think that's going overboard?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Some other people, in the guise of trying to protest, they are not being peaceful about it. They are going about and threatening the peace. Don't you think the police should also go after them?
I've not seen that. But of course, if they exist, the police will be working on it by now. Even people who didn't threaten peace have been arrested, right? The guy that was just selling End Bad Governance protest t-shirts was arrested. So how much more people who have claimed to, people who are
For
claiming to
selling the
call...
t-shirt at a high cost, or what was he arrested for?
He was arrested for selling the t-shirts. That's the crime, selling the t-shirts, selling the End Bad Governance t-shirts. It's just a way of quickly, containing the mobilization, especially in places like the North, where situations could get volatile very quickly. But again, I think if there has been incidents of threats to lives and properties ahead of the protest, the police would be on it by now.
Now, let's also bring this to the fore. We also saw a communique that was from the military on the protest. Do you think that was called for?
Well, legal analysts across the country have already lent their voice to that development, and they have condemned it. it was very, very uncalled for. Protests are political statements. They are political demonstrations. They are part of the social contract between government and citizens. So if the military is coming out to issue statements to warn citizens, quote and unquote, or threaten them in guise of warning, right? It's not proper. It's not healthy for our democracy, right? It's not even something they should get involved in. The protest hasn't even started. The protest hasn't started. I could argue that the group that is sensationalizing this protest and handling it the wrong way is the government and their agencies, their security agencies, who are coming out to threaten fire and brimstone because citizens have said they are going to be gathering together to make a demonstration. So I don't think that there is any basis for the military communique that was released. The protests haven't even started. We don't know whether people are in compliance with the law or not, or whether there is violence or not. So I think that the military should rather focus its attention on handling the insecurity challenges that's on its desk, rather than meddling between matters that ordinarily should be in between the citizens and their politicians and their leaders.
Okay, now let's switch positions, Ayo. Let's say you happen to be Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria. What will you do in the short term to address this protest issue?
Well, the president has choices to make, right? I mean, he made his choice. There is no telling that this is where he was going to lead when he unthoughtfully removed subsidy, removed electricity issues, removed
Ayo.
allowed schools
As
to
we speak
increase
right
fees.
now, we
Yes,
have turned this table. You are speaking as Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of the country, and we are asking you what short-term remedies, short-term, you will do as we speak.
the short-term remedies is to listen to the protesters and approve their demands. Bring back fuel to under 200 naira where it is economically feasible for many Nigerians. And I can tell you, if they are able to achieve that, they would have solved more than half of this country's economic crisis as it stands today. What we are witnessing, again, you said the table has been turned. So again, if I were president, I'm going to work towards the reinstatement of subsidy, corruption-free subsidy, because the problem of the subsidy regime is not subsidy, is that the country does not even know how many liters of fuel we are buying, how are we paying the subsidies, how much are we paying transparently over the liters of fuel we are buying, how many liters of fuel are we consuming as a country. So if I were President Bola Tinubu, instead of abolishing subsidy because it is corrupt, I will remove the corruption away from it so that poor Nigerians can continue to enjoy that service that the government is providing for them to help their economic endeavors, right? So if I were him, I would reinstate the subsidy regime more elaborately, corruption-free. I would look into all the issues that the protesters are raising, the over-bloated cabinet, the free reign of corruption under his administration. You know, the EFCC and SSS are unable to produce Ayoola and all of those. I'm going to, reground the government and quickly bring these things under control and show the people that, look, the government is here and the government is working. And I think that if the president were able to do that, it would further open communication between the president and his people so that we can all reach a compromise that is good and safe for the country.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ayo. It's been nice having you on SOUQ Pulse today.
Thank you, Jules. Thank you.
Now, to everyone out there, remember, it's your civic responsibility. It's your civic responsibility. It's enshrined in the Constitution. Yes, you can go out and protest, but one thing is sure. Make sure you don't go and destroy public property or someone else's property. Make sure you don't go out there and endanger someone's life. If you want to protest, then protest peacefully. And remember, the police is your friend. They are not your enemies. I will shock you. Do you even earn more salary than they do? They could act out of frustration. Remember, a hungry man is an angry man. And to every police person out there, remember, those people out there are also fighting for you. So let every one of us put our hands together and make sure that the country moves forward. Both us, both those that we represent, and those that are representing us. If the country fail, we all fail. But won't fail. The production and productivity aspect is enshrined in us. We are not lazy people. And say thank you very much for being part of SOUQ Pulse. We'll do this again on Monday. Remember, stay safe and be good. My name is Chooks, John Rogers Chooks. Have yourself a beautiful weekend.